alphabetically? Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Dean of the Keck School of Medicine, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the class of 2018 White Coat Ceremony. This is a special day with a very special history that you'll learn about a little bit later in the program. I'd like to introduce Dr. Andre Ford, our Vice Dean of Education.
Thank you, Dr. Puliafito. This is going to be a little bit of a challenge, fighting the glare of the sun. Distinguished guests, parents, faculty members, and most importantly, members of the Keck School of Medicine class of 2018. I extend to you thank you. I extend to you a heartfelt welcome to USC, the Trojan family, and to the Keck School of Medicine. We have gathered here today to witness and support what has become one of the most cherished traditions in the School of Medicine, the White Coat Ceremony. Indeed, this event constitutes a momentous occasion in the lives of the members of the Keck School class of 2018 because it symbolizes their formal transition from pre-medical students to medical students. It marks the dawn of a new beginning that will bring them closer to yet another important milestone 4 years from now when you confer upon them the Doctor of Medicine degree. The pride of those parents who have joined us for this celebration today clearly radiates from their faces because they know the sacrifices that you, the students, have had to make in order to attain this remarkable achievement. You have survived perhaps the stiffest competition possible during your undergraduate career in order to get here. Just like elite athletes, you have trained arduously, endured pain, sleepless nights, and made countless other sacrifices in order to achieve your goal of going to medical school. But far from being an end, this is only a beginning. You are embarking on what I believe is simultaneously the greatest journey and the most rewarding adventure of your lifetime. There is no question that you are prepared for the journey because you represent the cream of the crop, la crème de la crème, the very finest students that our best universities have to offer. You have made the team, but unlike the Olympics, where the medals are awarded to only the top 3 finishers, Dean Puliafito has 186 medals in store for you. And to make it to the medal ceremony 4 years from now, you need only survive some of the marathon journey that is replete with obstacles called Foundations of Medical Sciences, Neuroscience, Anatomy, Hematology, Microbiology, Pathology, just to name a few. You must also overcome endless hurdles known as exams and quizzes, and major roadblocks known as the USMLE. Intimidating as it may sound, this is an unparalleled and an exhilarating journey that will transform and equip you with the necessary tools to exert the greatest impact on the lives of other human beings. I submit to you that no other profession can boast such an impact. You will attain this noble aspiration by merely finishing the race. And since you are guaranteed a medal at the end, perhaps the greatest, if not the only thing that matters is how you choose to run the race. Will you ignore your partner who is stumbling or suffering, or will you try to pick up or support him or her? Visionary leaders and teachers at the Keck School of Medicine recognized many years ago that this race would be far more enjoyable if you run it as part of a small team. Therefore, they instituted at the Keck School what is widely acclaimed as the most innovative curriculum for the first 2 years of medical school. A curriculum that emphasizes small group learning to the establishment of multidisciplinary labs, which break up the class into 8 teams of 24 students that are then further subdivided into teams of 6 students. This approach allows for a cohort of students to get to know each other, learn together, teach one another, and most importantly, support one another all along the journey. And perhaps what is most remarkable is that rather than promoting competition or fostering mediocrity, this innovative approach to medical education has resulted in significant improvement in the overall performance of our medical students in Step 1 of the USMLE, as evidenced by the fact that Keck students have consistently scored roughly 10 to 15 points above the national mean since its inception. I believe that these tremendous results not only reflect the unparalleled commitment of our medical school faculty to your education, but also the importance of teamwork in acquiring an in-depth knowledge of the subject matter. This overarching principle of teamwork is one of the fundamental underpinnings of our curriculum. But you should realize that the ultimate beneficiary of your team effort is none other than your future patients or mankind more generally. I would like to leave you with a few guiding principles which hopefully will help you become even more effective physicians someday. Number one, commitment to lifelong learning. Number two, commitment to professionalism. Much has changed during the past 2 millennia since Hippocrates, the father of medicine, expounded his bold, if not revolutionary, theory in a treatise entitled Peri Physios Anthropo. In it, he argues that diseases were not the result of punishments inflicted by supernatural or divine forces, but the product of environmental factors, dietary choices, and living habits that resulted in an imbalance in the 4 humors of the body, namely blood, black bile, yellow bile, and phlegm. The remarkable explosion in medical knowledge that has occurred during the past few decades alone makes the Hippocratic theory of diseases appear to be naive and unsophisticated at best. William Harvey's discovery of the circulatory system in the early 17th century provided the foundation for the scientific study of the body and the fundamentals of modern medicine, of modern Western medicine as we practice it today. And as a pediatric surgeon, I'm also reminded that until the introduction of the Listerian principles of antisepsis in the late 1800s, a relatively simple operation such as a leg amputation resulted almost invariably in death from infectious complications in the vast majority of patients. Indeed, most of the complex operations that we routinely perform today were simply not possible to perform back in those days because of the risk of infection, even though the technical ingenuity to perform such operations already existed. We needed to learn better approaches to antisepsis and to discover antibiotics, a feat that was accomplished by bacteriologist Alexander Fleming in 1928. Now, from Watson and Crick's description of the double helix structure of the DNA to the deciphering of the entire human genome, and in the not-so-distant future, the application of personalized medicine or stem cell therapy for various ailments, I submit to you that the recent advances in medicine have been the result of hard work, determination, the unbridled and relentless pursuit of excellence, and an incomparable commitment to multidisciplinary teamwork by our predecessors and some of our contemporary colleagues. Indeed, I'm reminded of the words of Arnold Beckman, one of America's foremost inventors and chemists, who said, "There is no satisfactory substitute for excellence." Members of the great class of 2018, the future of American medicine, the future of our great and noble profession, will depend on your willingness to embrace and commit to these same principles and to lifelong learning in order to serve your patients or mankind more effectively. So as you don this white coat, symbolizing the beginning of the final journey that will grant you membership in that elite and prestigious group they call physicians, let me extol some of the important virtues that this white coat represents. This white coat is a symbol of authority, a symbol of empowerment, but most importantly, it represents a beacon of hope for many suffering patients on hospital wards. The empowerment that this white coat brings cannot be fully realized until you learn to exhibit the following qualities: character, compassion, sensitivity, patience, honesty, and integrity. These qualities are the essential scaffold of professionalism. You may be wondering how can I possibly have any influence on the lives of these patients, or how can I possibly contribute anything to their wellness or their health, especially now at the embryonic stages of my medical career. But the reality is that for many suffering patients, you, the first-year medical students, who are also eagerly trying to learn how to take a history and perform a physical exam, may constitute the only connection they have to the real world. You may be the only people to show any concern for their physical condition. You may be the only people who's able to show any concern for their physical condition, and also who is willing to take the time to listen to their ailment. While you may not be yet in a position to contribute to the differential diagnosis or treatment of their medical problem, your presence, your sensitivity, your caring attitude, your compassion, and your willingness to just sit there and listen to them may have profound effects on their emotional well-being and their overall ability to recover. Yes, you can make a difference even now. So members of the class of 2018, I implore you to remember the essential attributes of the successful physician. The successful physician is one who embodies character, compassion, sensitivity, patience, honesty, and integrity. And to this list, let me add teamwork. You must never lose sight of these foundational attributes, regardless of the challenges or circumstances that you will inevitably face all along the course of this exciting journey. So let this white coat serve as a constant reminder of the need to exhibit these attributes for the very rest of your lives. Congratulations to you and to your families on this monumentous occasion. Thank you. Now I'd like to reintroduce the other members of the platform party. Dr. Raquel Arias, who is Associate Dean for Admissions and Associate Professor of Obstetrics and Gynecology, and is also responsible for all of you being here. Dr. Donna Elliott, Senior Associate Dean for Student and Educational Affairs and Professor of Pediatrics. Dr. Sajad Yakub, Assistant Dean for Student Affairs and Assistant Professor of Pediatrics. Fighting the sun. Let's go low tech. Okay, we got it. Dr. Pamela Schaff, Associate Dean for Curriculum and Associate Professor of Pediatrics and Family Medicine. Dr. Ron Benary, Associate Dean for Continuing Medical Education and Assistant Dean for Curriculum and Associate Professor of Medicine. Dr. Chachi Fong, Vice Chair of Medical Education and Assistant Dean of Educational Affairs. Dr. Philip Lum, Chair of the Department of Anesthesiology. Dr. Laura Mosqueda, Chair of the Department of Family Medicine. Dr. Lila Witherspoon, Chair of the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology. And Dr. Michael Selstad, Chair of the Department of Pathology. Dr. Dean Althea Alexander, who is Assistant Dean for Diversity and Inclusion. And Dr. Joyce Ricci, Assistant Dean for Educational Affairs and Assistant Professor of Physiology. Dr. Stuart Swadron, Assistant Dean for Pre-Health Undergraduate Studies and Professor of Emergency Medicine and Medical Education. Dr. Eli Nazami, Associate Dean for Undergraduate Masters in Professional Programs and Associate Professor of Preventive Medicine. Dr. Brent Pope, the Chair of the Department of Pediatrics and Vice Dean for Clinical Affairs. Dr. Ken Geller, Professor of Otolaryngology and Director of Pre-Health Advising. Did I miss anybody else? Did I miss any? Okay. Great. Thank you. The final member, it's a good thing we have paper. The final member of the platform party that I will introduce is Dr. Kenji Inaba, who was selected by the class of 2014 as this year's recipient of the Leonard Tal Humanism in Medicine Award that is presented by the Arnold P. Gold Foundation. And for this reason, he was chosen to address us today. A native of Canada, Dr. Inaba completed his undergraduate studies at McGill University and subsequently went to Queen's University for medical school. He completed his master's at the University of Toronto and his general surgery training at the University of Western Ontario. He then went on to the Ryder Trauma Center in Miami to pursue subspecialty fellowships in surgical critical care and trauma surgery. He is board certified in surgery and surgical critical care by the American Board of Surgery and also holds certification in surgery, board certification in surgery from the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada. He's a fellow of the American College of Surgeons and of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada and numerous other prestigious academic surgical societies. Dr. Inaba is currently an attending trauma surgeon at the LSC plus USC Medical Center and an associate professor of surgery and emergency medicine at the University of Southern California. He is the medical director of the Surgical Intensive Care Unit and the associate trauma medical director. He is the program director for both the general surgery residency and also the surgical critical care fellowship. While at USC, he has been the recipient of 21 teaching awards, including the USC Keck School of Medicine Excellence in Teaching Award for the clinical sciences. In fact, you might as well say he owns that award. In addition to his teaching at USC, he has lectured extensively all around the world, having given more than 150 invited lectures. He has mentored over 85 research fellows and students who have generated 24 separate research awards for their work. So if you're looking for an RSP mentor, you found him. Dr. Inaba has authored more than 250 peer-reviewed articles, 200 scientific presentations, and 25 textbook chapters in the area of trauma resuscitation, diagnostics, and hemorrhage control. It is indeed a pleasure and an honor for me to introduce this accomplished and remarkable physician and respected colleague, Dr. Kenji Inaba.
Thanks very much, Dr. Ford. It is really, truly a pleasure to be here with you guys on this very important day. Now, I promise to keep it very short. I've been working since yesterday morning after that tanker truck crashed on the 60, and otherwise I might just start rambling, so you can cut me off if that happens. But I would really like to start by just congratulating each and every one of you standing or sitting in front of me for all of what you've done in order to get here today. I know it is a major accomplishment, and you should be very proud. And I would also like to acknowledge all of the friends and the family that are here today, because really, you guys are what truly makes up the people that are sitting in front of us today, and you're going to be a very important part of the support network for these guys as they pursue the rest of their training. Now, today is a really special day for a whole bunch of reasons, but I'm going to try to highlight two of them. And I'll start off because, first, this ceremony really does mark the start of you joining what I think is truly one of the most amazing professions that are out there now. Of course, we're all biased because this is what we do, but it really is a spectacular job. And secondly, I think it's very important for another reason, and that is what this ceremony was dedicated to celebrating, and that is humanism. Now, I think this white coat ceremony in its modern iteration, it really, for the last couple of decades, has been promulgated by Dr. Gold and the Gold Foundation. And virtually every medical school in North America has some form of this white coat ceremony now. And I think it's really important because at least once a year, it allows us to reflect back on probably one of the most important aspects of medicine and one that's really easily lost in our everyday practice. And now, as you guys sit here today, I know all of you, as you start medical school, are really full of compassion. There's no question that that's probably what drove you to apply to and to get to the point where you're at right now. But over the next 4 years, you're going to go from thinking about why you wanted to do medicine to really actually learning the mechanics of how you practice medicine. And the reality is, in 2014, it is an unbelievable amount of knowledge. And it really is easy to get caught up in the science of all of this. And in this rush to learn and in this rush to save lives, I really hope that you're always going to be able to think back to this day and remember the importance of compassion and the reason why you chose to be here today. Now, I'm going to give you one quick example of what I mean by this, and it comes from my field, which is trauma surgery. I know it's kind of funny, because trauma surgeons aren't really all that well known for their humanism. But on January 8th of 2011, a very serious thing happened in Tucson, Arizona. A 22-year-old male opened fire at a supermarket, and he injured upwards of about 19 people, 6 of which ultimately died that day. And one of them, as you know, was Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords. Now, all of the trauma surgeons that were in town that day in Tucson responded to the call, and I'm sure the dean will be happy to know that many of those trauma surgeons completed their formal trauma training here at USC. But I want to kind of draw your attention to one of those surgeons, Randy Fries, who was a surgeon that was on call that Friday night, and Saturday morning when this happened, he was coming off call, and he made some very, very important comments to the New York Times, which immediately went viral, and they really exemplify what it is that we're talking about today. Now, for the students, I want you guys to picture the situation. So he had just finished trying to save the life of this 9-year-old girl. Her name was Christina Taylor Green, with a dozen more patients coming in, and he's looking down at this congresswoman who's just shot in the head. And the reality is, in that moment, he had probably 100 different things that he had to do in a very specific sequence in the next 10 minutes if she's going to survive. But as he was trying to coordinate all of this care, in the midst of all of this chaos, he took her left hand in both of his and he said, quote, "Miss Giffords, you are in a hospital and we are going to take care of you." And as everything went down that morning, he continued to hold her hand. And I spoke to Randy yesterday. He's a good friend of ours. And in his mind, and probably more importantly, in Gabrielle Giffords' mind, this was one of the most important things that he did that day. I mean, the life-saving trauma care that he gave, no question, it was critical to the fact that she's alive today. But the fact that he held her hand and gave her the reassurance that he was going to stay with her no matter what that day, that was one of the most powerful things that he could have done and did in fact do. And I think it's an important thing to remember. In fact, this sentiment, those words, the actions that he performed that day, they were so important that the U.S. Senate very recently proclaimed February 14th, a second day to remember, as the National Day for Humanizing Medicine. Now, as you go forward, the technical care that you're going to learn to provide, no question, it is very important. All of us are going to work very hard with you, very closely over the next 4 years to make you the best doctor possible. But I think what's really important is that you must always remember that how you provide that care, that can make a world of difference, and that's whether or not your medical treatments are successful or not. And this humanism, we cannot teach you how to be humanistic. It's just not something that we can teach. It's something that comes from each of you. So, welcome to medical school. Today, you now, starting today, have the opportunity to truly care for patients. You get to care for your colleagues, and I think that's very important as well. Everyone that you're sitting with here today, these are not just the guys that you're going to spend the next 4 years with. These are the guys that are going to be your colleagues for the next 30 years. So take care of them. And your team, you must take care of your team. Nothing in medicine is done well in isolation. And as you become more senior, your team will become bigger, and you want to make sure that you take care of that team. And as you become more senior, you want to start caring about improving the medicine that we provide through doing things like research. And then finally, as you look globally, I think it's very important that you continue to care about society. Care to make the system that we work in better. Volunteer. USC, as you will find out, is very well known for volunteering and responding to disasters. And as a doctor, you're going to be very uniquely armed to be able to make a difference. So I'm really looking forward to working with every single one of you, because every single one of you guys is going to rotate through the trauma service. It is probably one of the craziest trauma services here in the US, and there are many opportunities, I guarantee you, for you to practice humanism. So congratulations, good luck on being a doctor, and welcome to the Trojan family. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Inaba, for these very important remarks. We now continue with the rest of our program, the presentation of the white coats to the class of 2000.